How have video games inserted themselves in visual culture, and what differentiates them from other forms of media?
Oh, yeah.
Video games have been a controversial topic for their role in the art world and their influence on social interactions. Regardless, they have become a unique form of media within visual culture, evident in their unwavering presence on social media, streaming platforms, and meme culture. Video games have altered our perception of visual culture, for visual culture is no longer something that we observe and consume. Rather, it has become a place where participants are able to control their identities, interact with their virtual environments, and communicate with their fellow players. Due to their interactive nature, video games exemplify how art and technology facilitate a new experience that challenges the norms of visual culture. In Pixelated Play, Practical and Theoretical Issues Regarding Video Games in Art Education, author Robert W. Sweeney advocates for the study of video games as a way of broadening the existing limitations of art education. He believes that video games surely influence how players see the world, and specific to artistic practice, how individuals might create, discuss, and better understand aspects of her or his digital visual culture. With a focus on perspective, Sweeney gives two examples of first and third-person perspectives using Giorgio de Chirico's paintings The Mystery and Melancholy of a Street, Figure 1, and The Vexations of the Thinker, Figure 2. Figure 1 situates the viewer within a first-person perspective, immersed in the exaggerated street view where the angled buildings converge at one point. This first-person view provides a semi-realistic experience within Chirico's surrealist world where the viewer can only accept what they see in this moment. The face of the little girl in the foreground is obscured by the shadow of the tall building, and there is no way of knowing who the large shadow in the center belongs to. Similar to how we view and experience the real world, Figure 1 illustrates how perception can be altered depending on the viewer's physical attributes, such as height, as well as their existing beliefs and ideologies. In comparison, Figure 2 is a more abstract rendering of reality in which the viewer is observing the back of what seems to be a mannequin-esque figure. Not only does the abstraction of the piece distance the viewer from the immersion experienced in Chirico's other painting, but so does the implementation of third-person perspective. Instead of viewing the environment firsthand, the viewer becomes an outsider looking at the back of an unknown figure who is existing in their own world. The sharp angles and seemingly random perspective of the painting confuse the viewer and alienate them as participants. Figure 3 is a composite of two screenshots from the game Minecraft in both third and first-person perspective. Even though these two images in Figure 3 lack the exaggeration and abstraction of Chirico's paintings, the drastic difference in levels of immersion is apparent. While in third-person perspective, a player is able to see behind, above, below, and in front of themselves simultaneously, eliminating the possible shock of oncoming threats. When in first person, the player can only see what's ahead of them, and nearly every other angle is obscured unless they manually look around. Figure 3 exemplifies differences in immersion between first and third-person perspectives, and surfaces the concept of why certain players might prefer one perspective over another. I never thought about how video games could be art until I watched Haroon Farooqi's Parallel 1 through 4, a video installation that explores the technological development of computer graphics, and how these virtual worlds may affect how we experience our physical realities. Despite the sterile computerized narration of the piece, I can't help but wonder if Farooqi is alluding to more profound existential questions. The second section of the piece, titled Parallel 2, shifts focus from the evolution of computer graphics to the physical and conceptual boundaries of video games. The narrator poses the question, does the world exist if I'm not watching it? Coupled with a visual example of Minecraft, where the environment is only rendered and generated as the character moves through it. This seemingly rudimentary depiction of the world, and its relationship to the self, is complexified by the voiceover that jolts the viewer into a solipsistic spiral, albeit momentarily. Am I real? What is real? Is it possible to ever know for certain? Does this even matter? As for the image, the environment is incomplete. The half-rendered ocean implies that the screen will be filled with blue in the next few seconds, but it is not guaranteed. The only thing the viewer knows for certain are the objects held in the player's inventory. In just the next few seconds, a new question is posed. How far can the rider ride? Accompanied by a clip of a player riding a horse in Red Dead Redemption. Although this question also seems simple, I think it's urging us to think more deeply. Perhaps stated in a different way, it could read as, what happens if we disregard the limitations imposed on us by the world and ourselves? In what ways are our shortcomings a product of our own actions versus uncontrollable forces? Figure 5 shows the rider in a desolate landscape on the periphery of the game's map, far from the NPCs and constructions of the central plot. The rider trudges through the water, but the only thing on the other side is an insurmountable rock formation. Maybe he doesn't know where he's going or what he'll do once he arrives at that obstacle, and maybe he doesn't care. In the article, Video Games Can Never Be Art, film critic Roger Ebert argues against video games as an art form, stating that no one in or out of the field has ever been able to cite a game worthy of comparison with the great poets, filmmakers, novelists, and poets. The example of Furoki's Parallel 1 through 4 is more so a reflection on art created from video games instead of direct video game art. However, I believe the fact that simple video game clips can provoke such introspection speak to its potential as an art form. Though in this case, maybe it's futile to debate whether or not video games are art because visual culture supersedes the restrictions of the fine art world. In a study examining the relationship between massively multiplayer online games, MMOs, and social engagement, researchers found that MMOs have the capacity to function as one form of a new third place for informal sociability, and they often function to expose the individual to a diversity of worldviews. Because all video games are hosted on online servers and include participants from all different time zones, video games have become a unique third place unparalleled to physical third places, like libraries or bars where accessibility is limited. In this situation, video games are unique in their ability to create a new interactive environment, differentiating them from all other forms of existing media. Figure 6 displays 3 players working together to defeat Ravik Dreamscape and his 3 cursed mice in Wizard 101. The positioning of the players, Jack, Ashley, and Natalie, towards the front of the screen assume that viewers take their side, while the otherness of Dreamscape and the mice may imply that they are evil and to be defeated. It's obvious that these two groups are fighting against each other, though it's less clear which player we are observing due to the third-person perspective. Resultantly, the viewer of this image may relate more to Jack, Ashley, or Natalie, depending on factors such as gender, clothing, or external appearance. The use of third-person perspective in this image, and therefore distance from the players, allows for versatility in ownership or relation to certain characters. Figure 7 displays a number of characters casually interacting while playing World of Warcraft. Names in green lettering float above their heads, and some even have their title visible. The uniformity of the green names and the proximity of the players to each other may indicate that they are all part of the same guild. There seem to be no active threats due to the casual stances and limited presence of weaponry. This image, similar to Figure 6, also utilizes third-person perspective, providing viewers with the freedom to choose whoever they most relate to. Again, it's clear how the distance created by third-person perspective facilitates viewers with a sort of freedom. The very act of playing a video game is a unique experience that differentiates itself from observing an art piece, watching a movie, or scrolling through social media. Video games are different from most other forms of media because they're reliant on interaction, communication, and collaboration. These elements evidently separate video games from traditional forms of visual culture and simultaneously encourage social interaction. Many people online create memes to express their frustration with certain games. Figure 8 displays a popular meme with respect to Overwatch 2, a popular first-person shooter game that has become notorious within the gaming community due to its dependence on teamwork. The meme depicts 2 figures on opposite sides of a bus, one cheerfully gazing outward while the other sulks in the dismal reality of actually playing the game. Its humor derives from its truth and the inexplicable phenomenon where gamers continue to play certain games even though they ensure frustration. Video games and their insertion into meme culture exhibit how the digital landscape is constantly updating and redefining what we perceive as visual culture. Figure 9 is a more general meme that can, unfortunately, pertain to nearly any cooperative game. This meme juxtaposes the traditional evolution of man with a jumbled collection of fully evolved and less evolved creatures under the title Online Matchmaking. This jumbled collection of creatures explains how players of unbalanced skill levels or development are frequently matched together or against one another, outlining the downfalls of online matchmaking. The main title reads, "Always blame your team," a common habit within gamers where they absolve blame for their lack of skill and place it elsewhere. Although it is a quite offensive chart, it's true nonetheless. It's important to note how the accessibility of these media forms in both creation and consumption further emphasize their impact on visual culture. More recently, video games have extended their reach to pop culture through celebrity partnerships. Figure 10 shows a notable collaboration between Fortnite and Sabrina Carpenter, where Carpenter lounges by the pool in one of her signature outfits, accompanied by other characters holding instruments and gazing toward the viewer. The gaze is inviting, perhaps enticing the gamer to admire her sparkly bodysuit and shiny curtain bangs, and wonder how comical it would look to wear one of her skins as they shoot down enemies and celebrate with one of her emotes. Fortnite is a shooting game, but there are no guns or signs of violence in this campaign. Maybe it's more enticing when viewers can project their own desires onto the characters. Figure 10 illustrates one example of video games' role in pop culture and visual culture as a result. While popular forms of entertainment like cinema, television, and theater require the audience's silence and rely on uninterruption, video games invite interruption, require it even. It's clear that video games have found their own space within visual culture, maybe not as an art, but as its own entity that invites immersion, communication, and collaboration both inside and outside of these virtual worlds.
Are you kidding me? I'm never playing this game again.